We got a nice rainy day today, nice and cool, rainy, overcast. Tonight it looks like we're getting close to freezing. Tomorrow night for sure we're getting freezing. So with all the rain, it makes sense to be working in an indoor space. So I'm going to pop over to our neighbor's high tunnel. I'm going to focus on finalizing our ginger harvest, wrapping up the rest of the tomatoes in that space, getting them back into our garage at least. And in this way, Sasha can process those when she's ready to. Lots of nice crops in there. I want to talk a fair bit about our experience in growing ginger this year. Still definitively in the realm of the novice, but for now I'm going to stop being on camera and actually get over there with the tools I need to do some harvest, and I'll take you along. Walking through a really cold rain on a day that's hovering above freezing, but not by a significant amount, can really help you appreciate having a space like this where you can enter in, be out of the rain, be in and amongst some figs and rosemary and lemongrass and ginger and tomatoes and hot peppers, all these really unlikely plants for a climate like ours. We've had a real grace window in the freeze normally happening around mid-October, and here we are nearly November, and it may happen tonight. It's not a guarantee that it will. But within this space, I really want to focus on getting more of our winter crops established in here, more lettuces. And if the ginger comes out, if the tomatoes are finished and come out, then more bed space is liberated for that. It's probably too late for it to work out really well for an immense amount of winter eating. But if we get these plants in here and they coast or survive the winter, they'll be able to regrow in the spring really nicely. So warm weather stuff out, cooler weather stuff in, and then we can focus on buttoning up the space and seeing how well it can perform for the winter months. I think I'm going to start with the tomatoes. I don't have a tripod with me. I got to find another one that works well with this old phone. But what I'm just going to simply do is the really ripe stuff, twist gently and harvest. The really green ones I'm going to cut with a fair bit of stem attached, and we can put those in our root cellar, and they seem to ripen slowly and steadily. And then chew through the vines with the pruners right down to ground. I don't need to pull them, they'll die during the winter, and throw that all in the walkway. So simple workflow. I'm going to chip away at it for a little bit. 2 plants done. I'll come back through as another pass and clean up these strings. Probably is going to be faster for me to unclip these instead of snipping around them. But the body parts of the tomato left in the pathway to break back down into soil, and some ripe tomatoes and some underripe tomatoes in the same tray, just to make life easy for harvest for now. You can see all the empty strings here from where the tomatoes were. By snipping, I'm breaking the parts down a bit. They're going to break down in the pathway a lot nicer rather than huge ripped out lengths of stem. And it's also a bit more careful and considerate of what's below. So rather than getting soil all over these lettuces, by just cutting flush, it keeps everything nice and clean. When we make salad, it's kind of nice to be able to come out with a clean bowl and wash our hands a little, or at least rinse them, and just pick clean leaves right into the salad bowl. So anytime we can keep our greens clean without washing, that's our preference. And so far, fair bit of green tomatoes, but some nice ones. For the end of October, I'm not going to complain about getting something like this, that's for sure. Certainly could have missed 1 or 2 plants here or there, but that is the last hurrah of the tomatoes from the high tunnel for the 2023 season. Realizing I'm not so keen on these meshes. These are from Johnny Seeds. Cordo net, I guess. It just didn't seem really nice. It's really slow and hard to unweave. I think the idea of the strings and the little stem clips for the future might be how I want to commit. I got a bunch of these used from a farm that was closing down, and I really like how clean it kept the tomatoes, and the finalizing of the crop was really nice too. So something for us to consider doing more of next year. Now for the ginger crop, the main excitement for me, since this is pretty new. If you can see little stalks here, they're senescing or they're going dormant. There's starting to be some yellowing there. I feel like it's the right time, and I don't think we want to wait till they've experienced a freeze. But you can see all these clumps of ginger throughout. The backstory is, I'm trying to remember correctly here, back in February of this year, so February or early March of 2023, we received, I want to say, 11 pounds of organic seed from Biker Dude. Certified organic, very highly recommended from other folks. I wonder for next year, can we just get $3 a pound organic ginger from our local co-op and grow from there? But these worked pretty nicely as far as vegetation goes. We had those roots on bottom heat, search for starting ginger from seed on YouTube. You're going to see all sorts of videos on that front. I don't have anything new to add, but they were in a lightweight media with some warmth back in March. They sprouted and were transplanted in. And now I want to go through and start lifting. So I'll actually do that. Maybe what I'll do is pull 1, 2, 3, and we'll take a look at that little set of crops. Probably a little bit more effective to use a hori, but folks might want to actually see this coming out of the ground. Let's see if they work. Beautiful amount of that very light colored baby ginger. Still very spicy, but also really sweet. The problem with just pulling it is I missed the mother, and I think down in there's a really nice older piece of ginger worth harvesting that we can use for cooking. But ooh, nice pieces. Let me see if that mother's down in there, and if not, I'll just leave it. But I'm gonna not film the rest. I'm gonna actually diligently use a tool and lift a little pile and reconvene with you folks. I harvested a few on the south end where we just didn't water nearly enough this summer, and I think it really stunted their growth. But here's one that actually got a fair bit of water. A really neat thing, if they're in soil that feels really well drained and has a chance to dry out periodically, it feels like the mother. Like this is the actual nugget that we had in a tray of media on bottom heat back in the spring, from whence this beautiful new baby ginger emerged, which is quite a nice amount here, really nice looking. But the fact that this comes out, it feels really firm. I don't think I would try to store this in the root cellar to eat in the winter, but boy, to shred, wash thoroughly, grate it and freeze it, or just simply freeze it, I feel like you get your mother back if the soil is well drained, plus the baby. So to that extent, it's a pretty nice yield. If we didn't get the original piece back, you can see it's not that much. It's not like a potato where you put one in and you get 6 times or 10 times the potatoes out. Not a huge yield here for us, but I suspect that's more about competition from all the plants around and the lack of us watering. Next year I might set up some actual watering systems instead of just letting everything be a little bit dry and unhappy. Still got a ways to go. There's little gingers all throughout the high tunnel. It's a little bit of a hunt to try to remember where I snuck them in. I really enjoy it, actually. It's kind of fun just to find them all throughout the kale and the collards and the lettuces. So a ways to go, but a nice amount sizing up. I wanted to leave some stem. I think this could make a good stock. Maybe folks want to share some notes. I bet you could do something with all that. For now, I don't think we have the bandwidth, so it's just going to be a mulch. And very clearly in areas where they were getting good water or decent water, sized up pretty nicely. In some areas where the soil felt extremely dry and pretty abandoned for the season, there's like very, very little new growth. So lesson strongly learned for me: hydrate these jungle plants. They don't want to be in a high desert, they want to be in a rainforest, so I've got to mimic that. But more to harvest. Getting a little more organized. The mother nuglets, quite a nice, wonderful amount going off to the side. We'll rinse and freeze those. I think we can freeze them whole. They're all really nice and firm. And then the baby ginger, the actual crop of the year. This feels almost like if I were to plant a hazelnut seed in the spring with the hope of getting a hazelnut tree, that in the fall I can dig the hazelnut tree out and take the nut back and it has nut meat in it. It feels a little bit like a magic trick. It's unexpected, but what a sweet surprise. We're getting our yield plus what we put in. And so I'll just plow through the rest of the tunnel and see what we got. It's a good visual reminder for me. Hopefully I'll see this next year. If I ask the question, is it worth the time to hill ginger as it's growing, kind of like potatoes? Here's one. I think this is the original mother nugget. Maybe there's more. Nope, that's it. So this is what went in the ground. This is what grew, same high tunnel. And I think at some point during the season, I hilled them and they just expanded quite a bit more and they look really rosy up the stem. So this was under soil to about here. So one nugget for that yield, that's actually pretty sizable. It's quite a bit more than the gingers that were simply planted and allowed to grow. So definitely worth the extra few minutes next season to shovel some soil around the stems as they're growing, because it feels like it made some really beautiful, very bright, very exciting ginger rhizomes. So I'll clear off all these roots, trim the tops, put them in the tray, and we'll bring them out. Everything's going to get rinsed in the pond in just a little bit. It is really adding up. This is so exciting. We're going to have so much fresh ginger frozen for this winter. I still taste in my mouth right now a ginger tea Sasha will make with lemon juice, orange juice, baby ginger, and raw honey in hot water. It's so good. And I feel that warmth in my mouth right now and thinking about that for this whole winter from these tropical crops that we're willing to grow in New York State. Thank you so much, Gingy. Fair bit more washing to do. And then what are your thoughts? You want to freeze most of it? Do we make a ferment?
I would like to make a ginger bug again.
For ginger beer?
Mm-hmm. And then we can freeze it and I can keep feeding it with that.
I love it.
That would be the best use, I think.
Can we see Zeldini? She snoozed. Has she been out in the high tunnel yet?
I don't think so.
You're ready to be done with this?
No.
No. I think I found most, maybe all, but let's say most of the gingers scattered through here. Could have been more organized and efficient in the harvest if they were all in one spot, but I really loved finding them all throughout. Way more fun. And here we are. Don't mind the tromboncino. That is for other times and meals. That is our ginger harvest 2023. I don't know how much this would have cost if we went to the local organic farmers market and bought this much fresh ginger. I can definitively say we would not have bought it. It's a lot. I think this will get us through winter very generously with some to share and gift and to trade. And then we can put these, some in the root cellar just as a question mark. Will they resprout next year? I can't imagine they will, but we'll try. But to get our seed stock back that we can use, pretty astonishing. These I'm going to take a real quick dip in the pond and then we'll hit them with a hose to get most of the material out. But since they were growing in more or less pure organic matters, aged compost rather than sand or grit or stony soil, I don't think we have to get them crystal clear. We're not going to sell them. And so if we eat a little bit of like aged beautiful compost along with fresh ginger, I think we'll be fine. So time for a quick dip. Ginger gets its first little Wim Hof experience. It's been in a piping hot high tunnel all summer. It's gonna get a nice dip in this ice cold spring fed pond for a moment. I'm gonna try to not get my toes in there, but shush it around in there a few times back on the dock, and that'll be a really great pre-rinse. So I'll take a moment to soak in the feeling of gratitude here in so many millions of ways. And in this moment to look out across this really rapidly developing beautiful ecosystem that's serving our needs recreationally and healthcare wise with this pond for cold therapy, for rinsing ginger, for providing the water for the high tunnel. Just all the things that are happening here. A little surprise on our neighbor's door from when he gets home from work. He said he doesn't like ginger that much, but I kind of feel like he's gonna fall in love with it when it's from our shared project. Ginger is out, tomatoes are finalized, little tromboncino winter squash that make exquisite summer zucchini vibes all out. For the end of October, I'm pleased beyond pleased. And the space in here looks like we didn't touch it. There's so much more in there. In fact, I missed some ginger, so I gotta take another little round of getting those out. Last steps will be to hit the ginger with a hose to get a fair bit of the bits off. Nothing really more that we need to film on this front. I think we'll break them down just enough to fit into Ziploc bags. Let them air dry just a little so they don't have freezer burn on them, and pack them away in the freezer for winter use. When Sasha's getting ready to renew our ginger bug for a wild ginger beer or that sweet medicinal lovely tea, we'll make some videos on that front as time allows. And thanks for your understanding if it doesn't. Hope you all are well and feeling abundance wherever you are. And I'm feeling great, deep gratitude for the community we're in with all these lovely folks in orbit of us. We feel supported and nurtured and cared for. I hope you genuinely feel that from us.